What is good, guys? What is good? You know, I've been seeing some people talk online, and some people are like, the Dolphins promised Malik Willis all those weapons, and now they're all gone. And I'm like, did they promise them to him? You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever feel like that's like a thing. Maybe they gave the visual of like so-and-so was going to be there, right? And I get it. You know, they had Tyreek Hill. Hill's not going to be back. They end up trailing Waddle to the Denver Broncos. He's obviously not going to be back, right? But that does leave Devon Achane. At least Devon Achane is there. And I'm trying to remember his name. What's his name? The center? Yeah, Aaron Brewer. Aaron Brewer is a very, very good center for the Miami Dolphins. And their two tackles, Paul and Jackson, I don't really feel like they're terrible. You know, like on the offensive line, I feel like the guards are kind of a little bit shaky, but the tackles and the center, I feel like they're solid, especially that center. That center is good, dude. Brewer is a very good center. But I'm like, yeah, I get it. You know, Malik Willis as the QB, obviously, you'd want your QB to have weapons. Like, for these people out here that like to harp on QBs and say this and that, like, oh, so-and-so QB needs to have all these weapons and this and that and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, dude, most QBs aren't having success without players on offense. So I do understand that, right? I entirely understand that. And we'll see what the Miami Dolphins do. I find it interesting. I do find it pretty interesting that they do end up getting rid of Waddle. Because lots of times when you see like a change in regime or like new coach, whole new coaching staff, you know, usually they'll like, there's a shakeup with the quarterback position. That's usually a thing. But I feel like with the wide receiver position and running backs, I feel like those guys have a pretty high chance of staying, especially if they're good, like a Waddle. So that kind of did shock me. But, you know, I'm like, well, we'll see what they do with the wide receiver position with Malik Willis, right? What do they sign Malik Willis to? $67.5 million contract, if I remember right. I don't have it pulled up on my computer, so I can't remember. But I'm like, okay, well, they're wanting to keep him around for a bit. I mean, that's a pretty decent contract, right? But I just look at the Miami Dolphins. I look how they operate, right? I think Jeff Hafley was a good hire. I do. I think Jeff Hafley was a good hire. I think them bringing in Bobby Slowick as the OC, I also thought that was a really good move, because just me as an Eagles fan, bro, I was like, bring in Bobby Slowick. Like, I'm like, CJ Stroud, the way we saw it worked out with CJ Stroud, I don't entirely put that on Bobby Slowick. So I do think the Miami Dolphins are getting a good offensive mind in Bobby Slowick. We'll see how that works out. But then I just look at like how this team is ran, you know, and like the Miami Dolphins owner, I just don't like, I feel like there's a lot of dysfunction from the owner, in my opinion, right? I feel like you're getting a lot of dysfunction. You see how all the stuff has worked out with the last previous coaches, just a lot of things going on. They have the whole thing happening with the GM. They end up bringing in the GM from, who was it, the Green Bay Packers? I'm pretty sure they end up bringing in a guy from the Green Bay Packers. So a lot of moving parts, but I feel like it all starts with the owner, with the Miami Dolphins, and all of like the coaches and players. I feel like there's not as much blame there, in my opinion. Obviously there's blame because they play their part as well, right? Like Tyreek Hill, he had his drama. Tua just couldn't shut up. He had his thing going, and he just wasn't playing good, right? Along with trying to stay healthy with all those concussions, because when it comes to concussions, that's not entirely on Tua. You can't put that on Tua. Like, a concussion is a concussion. It's something that you got to be very cautious about. You got to be very careful about. But there's just a lot of things going on with Miami. So the fact that they put Malik Willis in this scenario without, like, I guess you could say no weapons. Again, I think the offensive line isn't terrible. And I think Devon Achane is, you know, I think he's literally a top 7 back in the league. That's how good I think Devon Achane can. That's how good I think he is. It's not can be. I think Devon Achane is that good. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like, did they do Malik Willis dirty? I'm like, maybe. But I'm like, it really shouldn't be a surprise if you've been watching the Miami Dolphins over the past, like, what, 10 years, just how things have been ran. Like, it just honestly doesn't shock me. Also, I've been reading a lot online, and I didn't realize, I knew they were taking on a lot of like dead cap money with Tua, right? Because what does he have? He has the $54 million in 2026, $42 million in 2027. That's a lot of money. I mean, what is that? $96 million. $96 million just to get rid of Tua. They're taking on dead cap money. But along with that, right, I've been reading a lot of stuff. Miami, as in terms of just like paying other players that aren't even on the team, somebody that's retired, you know, like Teron Armstead, but players are retired, players aren't there. They're taking on like $175 million in dead cap money. Players that just are not even playing for them, dude. So you heard what I just said with Tua. Tyreek Hill, $26 million. Jalen Ramsey, was on the Steelers the last season and this upcoming season, $20 million. Mika Fitzpatrick, who they just traded, $12 million. Teron Armstead, you know, he ended up retiring. And then Bradley Chubb, I didn't think they were paying Bradley Chubb. I could be wrong on that. But they're paying a lot of people a lot of money that aren't on this team, that ain't even on the team anymore. And I find that absolutely insane. I say dysfunction, that right there is dysfunction. I don't care who you are. But I feel like the guys that they have in the building for the coaches, there's some upside there. How good is it going to be? I really couldn't tell you. But, you know, people being upset with like them getting rid of weapons for Malik Willis, I just don't really think it should be a surprise to anybody if we've just looked at the Miami Dolphins over the past 10 years. So I'm expecting Malik Willis to be solid. We'll see. Bobby Slowick really needs to pull his end. And, you know, when you have a guy like that, when you have a guy like Malik Willis coming from the Shanahan tree, right? You got Mike LaFleur coming. You got Mike LaFleur coaching him in Green Bay. And we saw Malik Willis, right? Like we saw him with the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans coaching just wasn't. We just all know it really wasn't there, right? Malik Willis didn't really work out there, and he had a little bit of hype, right? His draft class was just but there was some hype. There was some hype with Malik Willis, and he just didn't end up being that like missile thrower, super mobile guy with the Tennessee Titans. He ends up going to the Green Bay Packers. They kind of flipped the script. And I mean, we all know this thing that's been happening with quarterbacks. We see it with Sam Darnold. We see it with Baker and Mayfield. There's a bunch. There's other QBs like right, Daniel Jones with the Indianapolis Colts. There's guys that have literally flipped around their careers with good coaching. And so I really, really hope that Bobby Slowick really does a really good job with, I know I said really a ton, but I hope he does a very good job with Malik Willis, because I can't stand watching these young guys start to kind of be on the come up, right? Flip their career around and then go somewhere and then it end up being a shit show. So we'll see what happens. But them getting rid of some of Malik Willis's weapons, it really shouldn't come as a surprise for anybody, just the way Miami's been doing things over the past 10 years. But I don't know, man. You guys let me know what you guys think. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe to your boy. All we do is talk football, man. Come vibe with me, you know. But yeah, man. Anyways, guys, appreciate you watching. It's your boy Shady Luke, and I'm outie. Deuces.